Hey guys, Kannon here. Welcome to my streaming room. We're going to head over to the studio really soon. So today's video, I wanted to go over dyeing transparent resin that I printed with my Ligu Mars using Smooth On So Strong dye. So in my last video, I decided to test random things in my studio to see how I could dye transparent resin, and this was one of the things that worked really well. So I'm excited to go into more dyeing with this and seeing what we can come up with. So thanks for sticking around. In my previous video, I tested various paints and dyes to figure out what would work best in coloring the translucent resin. Just things I already had in my studio, and something that worked really well was the So Strong dye from Smooth On. Gonna clean these prints up, and then we're going to get right to dyeing and coloring. I tried a few various things, so the results ended up working out really well, so I hope this helps you on your upcoming projects. Here is the translucent resin that I used. All the links will be below, and these were printed on my Ligu Mars, which is also a link below. It's a fantastic resin printer. These came out really great, and the nice thing is you don't have any issues with bubbles or anything like that. So I'm giving all my little dice a good little scrub to get any leftover residue off of them. After I cleaned them off, I let them soak in water for a little bit, and now we're going to start dyeing. I'm using Smooth On's dye. You can get them in little tiny containers, or you can get them in the big bottles like I have. And a little bit really goes a long way with this. So I'm just going to take a tiny bit, like a drop, on a toothpick that I use, or try to get about an even amount just by looking at it. And I just have these little containers of about the same amount of water, so you can see it's just not very much at all. I'm going to mix this into the water, and you can also get like a popsicle stick or something else if that would be easier to blend. So for the first row, I'm going to try to get a gradient. So each one is going to progressively get a little bit darker, just to see what kind of variations that maybe you can get with the dye if you wanted to do something that was a gradient. So for the back row, I'm just going to put one drop of blue in each of the containers, and then I'm going to add different colors just to see what we can blend and what colors we can create. So for the first one, I'm going to do 2 drops of purple here. The second one, I'm going to add 2 drops of red. And then the last one, I'm going to put in some green. So I maybe let these sit for about 30 minutes, and they're already taking the color, probably even sooner than that. So the gradient looks like it's working pretty well. You can see the variation that it is a little bit darker, which is what we were going for, so that seems to be pretty successful. Now as far as the back colors, the purple looks really good, and obviously the more pigment you put into it, the darker they're going to get. And then the red came out really nicely. as well as the green kind of has this nice jade color, which I really like. So if you're in a hurry, I figured I'd try another method, or maybe you want to do some kind of like watercolor or blend something. So I'm just going to take this red here and I just mix it in like a drop of water, and I'm just going to paint it on. If I had a bigger object, it might be easier to kind of paint a gradient, but I'm just going to cover the whole entire dice and then kind of rub off any of the excess, and it already looks pretty even. After I color the dice, I make sure to have them cure under my UV light. So here's the comparison between the one that sat in the die and the one on the right, which we just painted on. It's a little bit lighter and brighter, but it doesn't have the blue pigment. So this dark one and this light one, I cleaned on the polishing wheel, but it definitely takes off a lot of the color. It still leaves some of it, so it kind of gives it an ice effect. But if you wanted to get its clarity back, I suggest using a varnish instead. The only way to really polish something is if you put the dye in the resin first and then print, and I just didn't really want a whole batch of one color since this was just going to be a test. If you wanted to use a polishing wheel or something like that, otherwise I would say clear coat it or varnish it, and it should look really good. So thank you so much for joining me today in my video and watching. If you have any further questions about any of the steps or anything I did, feel free to comment below. If you have any recommendations for future videos, feel free to request. I have a very long list already since I'm very late to making videos on YouTube. I have so many videos I'm excited to make for you guys this year. So thank you so much.